Ai,
I pai toi tēnā?
ai, pai.
Mōrena, Auntie.
Mōrena.
Pātai tuatahi, no hea koe, ko wai koe.
No te marae o whareroa, hau, ko au te kuia o whareroa, ko kura i monua Benton, ni ngātai tōku ingoa.
I tipu mai koe ki hea?
I tipu mai hau ki Matapihi, ai, ki Matapihi, ki tērā wāhi ki te whare whānau, te runga te puke, te wāhi i noho ai a te whānau a mane, te manea.
Ki raro i tāna whare o ki runga rā?
Ki runga rā,
Ki runga i te puke?
Ai, ki runga rā, sorry, ki runga i te puke, ai.
Tiro ana ki raro ki te, ki Waipu?
Ai.
He aha ngā hua o he aha ai, mai. Kōrero mai mo tō whānau o tipuranga ki reira, i te wā he pēpi koe, i te wā he homaiti koe.
Ai, ki ahau nei, ko Matapihi, taku kāinga, noho ai. I noho au i Wainganui i ngā kuia rongonui me piki. Tērā, i kite au rātau, ia rā, tērā te whanaungatanga, a ngā kuia i tērā wā. Ai.
Wai rātau, he aha wā rātau ingoa?
Ko Nawaki, ki ana, ko Materoa, ko Rangitukuna, ko Riri, ko Poia, ko Rangitukuna, nui ngā kuia i tērā wā. Waimaria hau, ka tipua i rāna i ngā kuia. Ai.
I kuraina koe ki hea? I kuraina koe ki hea? I haere koe ki te kura o Matapihi?
Ai, i haere au ki ngā whare o ngā kuia, ngāwa ko tōku māma, tōku whaia, ka haere tērā te mea nui o tērā wā. E whanaungatanga, ka haere taku māma ki te whare o Nawaki, ki te parei kāri, ki te pahupahu, ki te, e nui ngā wā i haere ahau. Ki etahi kāinga, ki Waikari, tērā etahi o ngā marae, ka kite au ngā kuia me ngā kraua ki reira, pai ki ahau tērā. Ai.
Nō reira, ko te wāhi o te kura, kei roto i ngā kāinga o kuia me ki runga i te marae hoki. You learnt both in the kāinga and on the marae.
Ai.
He aha ētahi mahi e pāna ki te māra kai?
Ētahi mahi ka haere mātau ngā tamariki o Matapihi i tērā wā ki te kohikohi, ki te hi ngā Pātaki, ne? I raro i tō tātou wawai. pai tērā ki a mātou. Ka haere mātou ki te kohi pipi, ki te taha ki tērā taha o whareroa, ai, e nui ngā pipi. Ai.
He aha atu, he aha ētahi atu momo kaimoana. He kuku,
He kukuroa, he pipi, he titiko, kei raro rā. Ai, kei raro i tō tātou kāinga. Ai, pai. Kāre mātou i tino kai i te miti, nā te mea ko te moana tō tātou kai i te rahoa. Ai.
Te mara moana.
Ai, mara moana.
He aha ētahi o ngā momo ika ki roto. Ko te pātiki, te tāmuri?
Ko te pātiki, ko ngā pāpaka. Ngā pāpaka, ai. Ko kukuroa. Kukuroa, tērā te ika. E nui ngā ika, ke roto i te moana rā. Ai, tērā e kite au, tērā.
He mahi o te whānau?
Ai, ka hare ētahi whānau ki te hiika, ki te kohi titiko, pipi. Ana, ka haere mātou, ngā tamariki ki te ētahi kāinga, ki te haria ngā pipi. Tērā te mahi o tērā wā, kāre taia i tēnei wā, ne? Ai. Ai.
He aha ngā momo tunu kaimoana?
He momo.
He aha ētahi o ngā... did you preserve... were there ways and methods that you cooked or preserved the kaimoana?
Ai, i kite au tērā. I kite au i tērā wā kāre ngā pauaka. Ka hana fridges, ne?
Ai, pauaka mata.
Ana ka haria ngā kai ki roto i te pātaka. I raro i ngā huarākau. Ai, tērā taku kitea, i kitea hau. Taku māma. Ta kitea au ia i roto i ngā I'll speak English now, ne? I saw my mother, she used to put hinu over to keep them, to keep whatever it was, and especially the meat. So that, and I never ever saw no flies, because they had a pātaka, like a safe, there out in the trees where it was cooler, no flies. So that was the way they did things. And I think every house did that. You know, that's what I saw. And it was just a natural thing for me to see that. And they had a lot of fruit trees. And when the fruit ripened, whether it be my mother, she had a lot of golden queens. And she had all the fruits under the, you name it, she had it. When there was so much, the people used to come and take home the peaches for them to preserve for their marae. That's what it was in those days. That's what I saw. They shared things. It was a natural thing for them to share things. And you know, I just I'm so happy I grew up in that era for what I saw with their kai and that. You know, they shared it from the maras. Everybody had a turn at each maras because they had humongous maras. Why? Because of the tangis for the marais too, and to feed their families. Yes, that's what I saw. Um, in those days, I saw my mum. My mum, we used to go out on a cart across to Rero, and on the other side, my brothers used to gather all pippies and bring them down here, and they used to make pippy beds. And that was during the winter, that was ours to have. And anybody who came around, we sort of turned it around this way as far as we could go. So people, and up that end, so people can just help themselves. That was, you know, in the winter time. Yes.
Like a temporary, like pātaka.
Aye, they had their own little pātaka in the winter time, you know, when it wasn't, and they had they got the little pippies and put them into these little holes, and that's, yeah, and it was for all the families right around. Yeah, but and if they went fishing, if our men went fishing, it was shared all around Matapi. I'd never ever seen them just have fish for themselves because they could just get heaps of fish. Mutton birds, they go out get mutton birds. Everybody, you know, got mutton birds, you know, and that was the way they were in those days. Never see it today, never, never. And that's what the old people taught me, really, just by looking and seeing what they do, sharing things, sharing kai. That's I. And they, you know, they kept their kai. They made sure that they preserved their kai in the fat. You know, all houses did that because they had big families. Yes.
So they preserve them in the hinu.
Hinu.
Have them in the pātaka and the rākau.
Aye.
So the pātaka and the rākau.
Hanging from the rākau, hanging from the rākau, from the branch. Yeah, it was hanging. We always had one. That was our fridge. Yeah. And I can't remember ever, you know, wasting kai. Never, ever, ever. We were well fed, but we had to eat whatever was on our plate. And never, you know. And, you know, when they used to ask us to go and collect titikos, and we loved it. We just loved it. You know, it was a way of getting exercise for our tinana. So, yeah, it was lovely.
Were there titiko everywhere or in certain areas you knew?
Well, all around, all down below there, all over there, you know, all lots. No more today. That's what a lot of families lived on, off the moana. Because meat was hard to get, you know, and they used to keep their own cow for milk. I remember my mother making her own butter. She had one cow, yes, and she had a horse to pull her plough for her mara garden. And, you know, and it moved on to the next. If they didn't have one, the horse moved on to the next my brother used to take it to different maras that were, and if they didn't have any. That's how they were. You know, beautiful, beautiful kuia and kraua. Mostly I grew around the kuia, you know. The kuia stood out for me. And how I never ever knew. I always thought that we were one family. Not me. Would you believe that? I'd never ever thought until I got into high school. And our, our names are different. You never sort of think of that. Our surnames, but never ever thought about that. Nobody was any different. We were all the same. That's how we were treated by the kuia, like the mokopunas. I loved that. You don't see that now. All matapihi, they all loved one another. They embraced one another in those days. What else? And now Matatias, where your auntie lives. We used to go down there a lot too. And they, down on the other side, on the other side, not where we used to swim, but on the other side, there used to be a lot of titikos there too. Yeah, and I sort of kuias go across into the rushes to get some sort of, for weaving, or they take their pupus over there. Because the weather was good, I never ever saw in my time of growing up any windy days like we have now. The weather change the weather was so beautiful. If it was winter, it was winter. If it was summer, you had a real summer. So, yeah. Yes, so, everybody thinks, they used to say to us, oh, you should go past the railway line, to get a life, when I was growing. I was a bit scared, because I think here that we were sort of mollycoddled, like we were like a cliquey group of our own here, must be. Even when we went down to Mount School to get our teeth. Anyway, we're getting away from the kaupapa nera.
Good plan. So you spoke about the piu-piu, kuia and piu-piu making down at Matatias. Were they dying?
Yes, they were dying them right across. You see where Matati is on this side, or you see Tamapahori across there.
Mm-hmm.
There's just below there. They used to have this mud, certain mud, which they used to do their pupus. The whole lot of kuias. So trot across, but lift their skirts up. You know what they were.
Because it's a long distance, isn't it?
I know, they were fit.
Around past
When I know we went across the,
straight across.
we went across the, we went to Matatias, what do they call it? Oruamatu. Oruamatu, and we went down the hill and across.
Because I have heard kōrero of the puna paru, the black dye, the puna.
Yes,
the
that's.
kuia used to
Yes.
would dye their harakeke or muka black.
Yeah.
And my auntie Katarana referred to a puna here, but there was also puna at Matatias.
Yes, there was.
Were there more puna all around Matapihi and Rongopai?
There was one down here, wasn't there?
Yes. E rua. One here, one by a willow tree.
Yes.
There's a willow tree.
Aye.
But did you used to help your kuia with a rāranga?
Well, they used to make us sit there, and actually what happened was they used to get these, rushes, they call them rushes, I think, and make different things out of it. We never had no toys. Our kuias made us little things out of them which we could play for ages, like little dollies. They used to do. They were clever, and a lot of things they made for us when we went on these hikois. They made things for us to play, and as long as we were around, they were happy for us to make us these things. That's all we had to play, with, was the things they made.
Before the the toll bridge was built at Rero. What was it like there?
Well, it was lovely to be able to just walk out and get your kukuros right there. Just wasn't even deep. It just out there getting just out. You just walk out from the wharekai and out, and there's the kukuro bit there. Always lots. Like a lot of people don't like kukuros because they said it's tangy, but I loved it. I think it's the way that my mother cooked it. It's, you know, those kuyas, they could cook. Basic but beautiful. You know, they always had a bit of flavour to their cooking. Just hands-on. I mean, I don't know where they got all these flavouring stuff from, but I don't think they had herbs in those days, but they had their own little, you know, like what you get for rongo and all that. They had all those sort of things.
How did she cook your kukuroa?
When I remember my mum doing it in a sauce. And don't ask me how. Don't look. I never used to cook it like this, but I used to watch what I saw was in something white, a white sauce. You know, she used to cook it in. And I don't know where they got them. Sorry, they got powdered milk. That lasted them a while. You know the powdered milk? Yeah, but they, you know, it was no different from the real milk. So, yeah, I remember her cooking, you know.
You talked a little bit about rongoa.
Yeah.
Was there, did rongoa grow?
Well, I tell you what, I never ever went to the doctor, ever. I got a cut. My mother fixed it up, and there was no scar there. And sometimes it was a bad cut. I think they all used to do it here, like their children never went to the doctor. They had their own rongo. Now don't ask me where they got it from. I think my mother used to go up in the bush somewhere and get the special stuff. But she used to use kumara, you know, scrape the kumara and put it on, what you call it, dock leaf. All those things, you know, used to
The kumara hau?
Yes, kumara hau, yeah, yes. But that's what mostly I saw was a dock leaf and the kumara, scraping the kumara.
Like your normal kumara?
Normal kumara, scraping it and then heating it up a bit and putting it on and it fixed it. It took away all the infection, drew out the infection. She always told me, if you're in Australia, don't forget to use the kumara if one of your children get cut. And I'll tell you something, share with you something. My niece Jenny was over in Australia. She got a bad cut, and the doctors couldn't. What they gave her, they couldn't fix. You know, it didn't heal. So when she came back, my mother went and got some stuff, some rongoa, put it on there, and she said, just healed it. She could feel the infection coming out of her leg. She could feel it drawing out. So, and then she got no scar or anything. So they had their ways. They had their ways. And they knew where to go and get their rongoa. They had special places to get their rongoa. I never watched that because sometimes she went late. Sometimes she went when we were asleep. So how could I wish she shared it with me, but never mind.
But she would have gone beyond Matapihi or?
I think it was around Matapihi, but she didn't tell me which bush. You know, there were certain bushes they went to. So you probably found out with Nawaki too. She would have done that. They would have all done that. That's that's why they never ever had doctors here. I think I was a teenager before I saw a doctor. So yes.
Well, I'm going to, this will be my last pātai for now, for today. But I suppose thinking about how you grew up with whānau and kuia and our māra moana and māra kai, what are your hopes and aspirations for our taiao and for your mokopuna now?
Well, you know what, I often talk to on my mokopuna. We have quite a few talks about my growing up, and I've even shared it with them how it was in those days. And hopefully from that, I think I said you should now. I can see my daughter doing her own garden. She's got her own garden because they're vegetarians. And I like that because it reminds me of my mother. And now my granddaughter, Chelsea, she's doing her own garden. And I think that's lovely. We go every once in a while down to Arataki to get pipis, and I talk there. This is where I do all the talking to my mokopunas. It's good to go and get kai sometimes, from the moana. And, in the future, always look after our kai in the moana, All your shells you take back to the moana, give it back to him. And then they say that, this is how I was brought up. If you take those shells and that to the moana, it flourishes, and you get more back. That's what she brought me up. So I try and tell my mokopunas that, and hopefully that it'll stick in there. But I'm glad they're starting their gardens, and that's a big thing for them. They love it. So I'm so happy, We, I think we only buy a couple of things, which is potatoes, but we are going to try our own potatoes in Kumara. And of course, we had a lot of kamokamu this year. So, they're doing their gardens, and I think that's a start. Yeah. And when we do go down to Arataki to get some ore at Makatu, we have an enjoyable day because that's where the stories come out, That's where I tell them the stories, and so, yeah. Hopefully they'll carry on that.
Kia ora, Auntie.
And give it to their own children, Their own children will go there because it's better for them. Yeah. Those are my aspirations. Yeah. And hopefully, I'm hoping that one of them goes to those rongoa classes, with, what's his name? Part-8, is it? Or is it part-8? Oh, yeah, aye. And I'm just waiting, and if they could, learn that, they might be able to hand it down to my other mokopunas. And we have had a kōrero about that in my family, because, when I'm gone, they won't know, to do those sort of things. So hopefully, yeah. Yes.
Well, kia ora, Auntie.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Ka tuku mihi ki a koe I rungi I tēnei ata mō tō kōrero I runga I te kaupapa o te rā, me te harikoa o taku ngākau ki te rongo I o kōrero me te me o kōrero e pāna ki o kuia. Kia ora, mātai nei koe. Kia ora, Auntie.